Remember the infamously prolonged Spider-Man 4 movie we all wanted but never got? Well, there must be a genie out there granting wishes because rumor has it Tobey Maguire, our original friendly neighborhood hero, might return for No Way Home, finally wrapping up the very first installment. And who better to direct it than Sam Raimi, the genius that gave our childhood something to remember with his fantastic take on the Peter Parker story. In case you forgot why fans consider Tobey to be the best Spider-Man, we're here to remind you. So, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button if you want to be the first to get the news while it's still hot from Rumour Juice. When you take a closer look at Tobey, you can easily see that, as most fans say, he was born to play Spider-Man. The now 45-year-old actor shares a lot of common traits with the web-slinging superhero himself. And perhaps that's why many can't help but see him as their favorite Spidey. With all the similarities, it's hard to deny. We know what you're thinking. Isn't Tobey a little old to play the young and puny Parker? Well, maybe that's just a Spider-Man we haven't seen. Remember the Spider-Verse? It gave us different versions of the web-slinger, and a grown Peter Parker with a 5 o'clock shadow didn't seem so bad. That little bit of stubble is exactly what Tobey has been rocking lately. Coincidence? We don't think so. He wasn't named the sexiest actor alive twice in a row by Glam Mag for nothing, but even with that title, we can't help but see how completely adorkable he is. Ever thought about what truly sets Tobey's Spidey apart from the rest? Peter Parker has a dorky nature that appeals to the soft side of our hearts. Although he isn't portrayed as your stereotypical nerd, he's just brainy enough to show his intellect. Hunky stars like Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield could put on a pair of glasses, but that still wouldn't sell Peter's dorky character trait.
Web. Fly. Up and away, Web.
While Garfield's take was a complete stud, Holland was charmingly awkward, but, some believe, still not the kid who we would overlook as being the web-slinging hero. Tobey's version was a brainy kid who tried to balance academics and saving lives while not giving away the idea that he is the friendly neighborhood hero. So we weren't surprised when we heard that the actor actually returned to acting classes long after he had garnered success as a reputable actor. Imagine seeing Tobey Maguire just walk into your drama class. It sounds like a dream. But for the people who were lucky enough to have him as a fellow student, it was real. It seems both Peter and Tobey can never get enough of learning. That's because Tobey was the one who sold the idea of a quiet and nerdy Peter Parker who transforms into this life-saving hero that swings through the Big Apple with complete confidence. Maguire seems to have a thorough understanding of the character, maybe because it does not require him to step out of his everyday life, but rather to mirror it. The actor possesses a quality that lets viewers know that behind the red superhero suit is a kind, gentle, and loving boy that cares for people and just wants to do good.
Hey, you guys. No playing in the streets.
Yes, Mr. Spider-Man.
See ya.
Way to go, Spidey!
Perhaps the star was able to portray this unpopular and misunderstood teenager because he felt that way too. Tobey said that what initially drew him to the role was that Parker felt like an outsider, something he can relate to. Meanwhile, Holland's version seems to get invited to parties, and Garfield's version becomes the big boss, confidently beating up his bullies after his newly discovered powers. But it is Tobey's Parker who struggles to fit in the most, even amongst his friends and relatives at home. I felt like I was an outsider, Maguire said about his childhood. I made few friends and stayed with aunts, uncles, and grandparents while my folks tried to make ends meet. It was tough. We had no money. Not only did the actor feel like a black sheep, but like Peter, he was raised mainly by relatives and came from a humble background. Was Tobey just playing a role, or is he a real-life Peter Parker?
I think I can especially relate to Spider-Man, that side of my character, because I feel like a superhero in general in my life.
When the actor spoke about his character, he was able to note a significant detail about Parker's romantic advances, or rather, lack thereof, saying, he doesn't know how to share himself with the girl he has great affection for. Something that may also speak to Tobey's real life. The actor is not much of a toxic bachelor, or the kind of man to have multiple women on his arms at the same time. He's only dated a handful of women, 4 to be exact. One of which was his wife of 10 years, Jennifer Meyer. Although Maguire and Meyer went their separate ways, his relationship history from co-star Kirsten Dunst to the current model Tatiana Dieteman proves that like Peter Parker, Tobey is not much of a ladies' man, but always ends up with the prettiest ones on his shoulder. Though he and Kirsten broke up before the wrapping up of the films, the two actors never let that get in the way of their on-screen chemistry. Peter's relationship with Mary Jane was full of passion, and it's those stolen moments that were enormously heartfelt. There was something beautiful and heartwarming about their old-fashioned type of love.
MJ, in case we die.
You do love me,
I do.
even though you said you didn't.
Although it didn't have the same touch of realism that Garfield and Holland's relationships had, it still had us swooning at the screen in those burning moments. Perhaps it was the tension and release caused by the character's tug between shy and confident. Peter Parker says it better. The great thing about MJ is when you look in her eyes and she's looking back in yours, everything feels not quite normal because you feel stronger and weaker at the same time. You feel excited and at the same time terrified. And if you thought that was the last thing they have in common, we've got one last treat in store for you. Just as Parker has another hobby, photography, outside of being a superhero, Maguire has an interest one would have never guessed. When the actor was younger, he wanted to pursue a career as a chef. But this didn't impress his writer and producer mother. She pushed him to try acting, or rather, bribed him with a $100 bill, and it worked. Young Toby chose drama over home economics, and just like that, the culinary arts lost out on the next Michelin star cooking prodigy. And seeing as the actor keeps to a no-meat diet, the vegetarian community lost out on what might have been the next best veggie chef. But the film industry gained another star, so it doesn't seem like a complete loss. Although Toby seems to be the Spider-Man that everyone wants, are there any real hopes of him making a sensational comeback?
Hey! I'm coming for you! I'm coming for you!
Jamie Foxx, who plays Electro in Spider-Man 2, starring Garfield, confirmed that his character would be reprised in the upcoming movie, No Way Home. The actor shared on Instagram, super excited to be part of the new Marvel Spider-Man new installment. The inclusion of Electro in Tom Holland's universe of Spider-Man hints at the possibility of different Spider-Man universes merging into one. And if they can bring back a villain from another world, they can surely make a beloved hero return too. But the real question is whether they can convince the respected Sam Raimi, who directed the first installment with Maguire, to come back. Because if he returns, we can expect to see Toby. The actor only had good things to say about the director, who he couldn't have been happier to work with for the first Spider-Man films. Sam Raimi is the perfect filmmaker. He's been a Spider-Man fan all his life, so I felt comfortable in his hands. Let's face it just wouldn't be right to bring back one without the other. The big question is whether Sam will be returning.
Sam and myself, Sam Raimi, the director, we have a certain banter or dynamic that's fun and funny, and I love collaborating with him.
But it looks like the fan speculations are onto something. If you take a look at the casting for Spider-Man 4, No Way Home, you'll realize that the cast includes Doctor Strange actor Benedict Cumberbatch, who Raimi is currently directing in the upcoming Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. Fans allege this fact will also play a big part in the much-anticipated Spider-Man movie, and who's better to direct another multiverse film than the genius already in charge of the one right now? It's safe to assume that Maguire will be back to our screens, alongside another one of Raimi's directed actors, Cumberbatch, and hopefully co-starring opposite the other web slingers. If you think about it, all the Spider-Man movies are missing a fourth chapter, and perhaps this is the one film that covers bases for all the three installments. There are many factors that may restrict Maguire's return, such as budgetary concerns and Maguire's bad reputation, just to name a few. But
We have problems. When people have problems, they work it out. They talk to each other.
if the actor is bent on being part of the story, nothing will stop him. Remember Spider-Man 2 and his fight against Dr. Otto? The young star was doing all of that while recovering from a back injury previously received on set where he had severely hurt himself. Jake Gyllenhaal, who was later cast as Mysterio in Holland's Spider-Man, was ready to take the actor's place as Spidey. But a persevering Maguire was back on set and ready to film before letting that happen. We hope the actor shows the same commitment and spirit towards his upcoming and heavily anticipated movie. In the meantime, check out one of our older videos about Toby, while we all keep our fingers crossed to see him at the cinemas when tickets go on sale. Is Toby your favorite Spider-Man? If not, don't shy away from telling us why in the comments below. We love to hear what you think. That's it from us. Thank you for choosing Rumour Juice, and don't forget to tell your friends how cool we are.